Welcome back. Today we're doing a deep dive into a really fascinating engineered civilization, the Etherean polity. We're looking at a society living in these bioadapted floating cities, and their entire culture seems dictated, really down to the smallest detail, by environmental necessity.
Right. And our mission here is to understand how that constant existential threat, they call it the random monsoon, basically forces everything.
Yeah.
Their architecture, their governance, even their language to become tools for collective survival.
It's not just adaptation, then.
No, not really. It's more like civilization as a survival mechanism. And the key, the absolute foundation, is this biorock tech. It uses electric currents in seawater to literally grow their city foundations.
Grow them.
Yeah, mineral accretion ends up being like 2 or 3 times stronger than normal concrete, which means you're city architects. They also have to be marine biologists.
Okay, so the very ground beneath their feet requires this intense scientific upkeep. Let's unpack that a bit. How does this unmoored metropolis, as you called it, change how they live compared to us on land?
Well, the city itself is basically a metabolic system. The biorock foundation, the 3D ocean farming integrated into it. It's not just structure and food. These systems actively regenerate the surrounding ecosystem. You've got these huge kelp farms absorbing, 5 times more carbon than land plants?
Wow.
So there's this constant need for scientific vigilance. The role of engineer and marine biologists, they're completely fused. It's built into civic planning.
That sounds like radical interdependence baked right into the foundations. But, we've seen highly centralized societies fail before. Why are the Ethereans so sure their extreme social contract won't just collapse?
Because for them, structural interdependence is self-preservation.
Yeah.
It's absolute. Previous societies, the sources suggest, failed when people relied on sort of individual coping mechanisms, siloed preving,
Right.
In Etheria, maintaining your assigned bit of the ocean farm or your section of the biorock infrastructure, that is how you survive. Individual self-interest, looking out only for number one, it's structurally damaging. The system's resilience, that collective response, is the only thing keeping the city floating.
That completely reframes what citizenship means. The sources say science isn't just a tool for them, it's basically their governance system, their morality, like their constitution. What does strong objectivity actually look like in practice?
That's a good way to put it. Objectivity for them is a function of social organization.
Yeah.
You use something called transformative criticism. It means political decisions, engineering plans. They're treated like scientific hypotheses, subject to constant, rigorous peer review, public auditing.
So a city budget isn't a political debate.
Not really. It's more like a massive grant application that needs to pass peer review for its viability and, its adherence to facts.
And the penalties for getting the science wrong.
Severe. You mentioned failing to maintain norms. Specifically, they have this FFP triad: fabrication, falsification, plagiarism. Breaking those rules isn't just academic misconduct. It warrants serious civic penalties.
Why so harsh?
Because structural failure means immediate, total catastrophe. Falsifying a stress report on a biorock segment, that's treated like treason. It endangers everyone.
Okay, so if governance is basically constant peer review, that sounds incredibly demanding cognitively.
Right.
How does that impact daily communication? They have this engineered language, right? A conlang?
Yes, exactly. And it's a socio-political tool explicitly designed to strip away distraction. It actively removes words linked to past materialism, non-functional art speculation, obsolete consumer brands, that kind of thing. They basically cleared out the linguistic clutter to force focus purely on the collective immediate reality.
And the grammar itself is diagnostic, not optional.
Precisely. The grammar is an existential checklist. You have to use specific markers for climate aspect. You can't just say it's misty. You have to mark if it's routine condensation, a resource, or signs of an incoming monsoon, a threat. Same for resources. You don't just say the kelp is ready. You specify its resource status, nutrient density optimal for harvest, or maybe dangerously low. Using the wrong marker isn't just poor grammar. It's seen as a safety breach, an existential risk.
Wow. Okay, in this incredibly controlled, high-stress environment, where do people find any peace? Where's the psychological release valve?
Well, they use acoustics very intentionally. It's therapeutic infrastructure. The preference for acoustic music isn't just taste. It's an ideological rejection of the industrial noise and chaos of the past. It's meant to lower the stress response against the background hum of the city systems.
Interesting. And what about their fascination with terrariums? That seems specific.
The terrarium is absolutely key. It's the domestic ideal, the psychological anchor. It represents a small pocket of total environmental control, a perfect, self-sustaining little ecosystem that just works on autopilot.
Right.
That contain perfection, that predictability. It directly counteracts the anxiety from the massive, unpredictable chaos outside. In Etheria, your personal status isn't about wealth. It's reflected in the verifiable health and resilience of your personal microecosystem, your terrarium.
So Etheria essentially eliminated the cultural margin for error. Scientific discipline is survival.
That's the core takeaway. For this civilization, verifiable knowledge and ecological discipline aren't just values, they are the ultimate civic virtues, the bedrock of society.
Okay, let's leave our listeners with something to think about.
Right. So the Ethereum conlang deliberately stripped out things like non-functional art, maybe even casual chit-chat, to save cognitive bandwidth for survival tasks. So the question for you is, what critical but maybe non-essential part of your culture, your daily life, would you be forced to discard if your survival absolutely depended on eliminating every last distraction?